In today's video, we'll walk through the key elements of how freelance income is taxed in Denmark, so you can operate with clarity, avoid unexpected liabilities, and make better financial decisions. We'll focus on practical guidance rather than technical jargon, but we will stay aligned with the legal and administrative framework used by the Danish tax authorities, Skattestyrelsen. To begin, it is important to recognize that freelancer is not a formal tax category in Denmark. Instead, your work will usually fall into one of two main setups. Either you are treated as self-employed with a business, enkeltmannsvirksomhed, or you perform freelance assignments that are taxed as personal income, often similar to salary. The distinction matters because it affects how your income is reported, what deductions you can claim, and how you handle VAT and social contributions. If you are working for multiple clients, taking on entrepreneurial risk, using your own tools and equipment, and deciding how and when you work, you are more likely to be considered self-employed. In this case, you typically register a sole proprietorship with the Danish Business Authority through VARK-DK and obtain a CVR number. Once registered, you must keep proper accounts, issue invoices, and meet your tax and VAT obligations as a business owner. If, on the other hand, you primarily work for one client, follow their instructions, use their equipment, and have limited financial risk, the arrangement may be classified more like employment, even if you call yourself a freelancer. In those situations, the income might be reported as B income or even A income, which influences how tax is withheld and what you can deduct. It is therefore worth taking time up front to clarify your status and, if needed, consult a tax advisor to avoid reclassification later. Turning to income tax itself, Denmark operates a progressive system with several layers. As a freelancer, your net profit from business activities or your net freelance income is generally taxed as personal income. You start with your gross revenue from clients, then subtract allowable business expenses to arrive at your taxable business profit. This profit is subject to municipal tax, health contributions embedded in the system, church tax if applicable, and potentially state top tax if your income exceeds certain thresholds, which are adjusted annually. Most freelancers will also use the so-called business schemes, such as the virksomhedsordning or the kapitalafkastordning, to manage how profits are taxed and to optimize interest deductions and savings. But these schemes require proper bookkeeping and, ideally, professional advice. In practice, you will normally make on-account tax payments or have your preliminary income, forskuddsopgørelse, updated with expected freelance earnings, so Skattestyrelsen can calculate the right level of tax during the year instead of leaving you with a large bill afterwards. One of the key advantages of being recognized as self-employed is the ability to deduct legitimate business expenses before tax is calculated. Typical deductible expenses for freelancers in Denmark include costs directly related to generating income, professional software, office supplies, professional subscriptions, marketing, website hosting, accounting services, and travel costs linked to client work. If you use a home office, a proportional share of rent, utilities, and internet may be deductible under specific rules, but you must be able to justify the calculation. The overarching principle is that expenses must be necessary for running your business and properly documented with invoices or receipts. Personal costs, such as normal clothing, private travel, or meals not tied to business activities, are generally non-deductible. Misclassifying private expenses as business costs is a common error and a red flag in an audit, so discipline in record keeping is essential. In addition to income tax, many freelancers must also deal with VAT or MOMS. If your annual turnover from taxable activities exceeds the registration threshold set by Danish law, you must register for VAT, charge VAT to your clients on invoices, and report and pay VAT to the tax authorities, typically quarterly or monthly depending on your volume. Most freelance services, such as consulting, design, IT, and communication, are VAT liable, though there are important exemptions, for example in certain health, financial, or educational services. When you are VAT registered, you collect 25% VAT on top of your fees for Danish clients, and, in many cases, can reclaim input VAT paid on your business expenses. Cross-border services within the EU and outside the EU follow specific place of supply rules, which influence whether you invoice with or without Danish VAT. Getting those rules right from the start prevents costly corrections later. Many new freelancers underestimate the importance of aligning their invoicing, bookkeeping, and VAT filings with their cash flow. A good practice is to set aside a fixed percentage of each payment you receive into a separate account reserved for tax and VAT. That way, when your VAT deadline or annual tax settlement arrives, the funds are already ring-fenced. On the social security side, freelancers in Denmark generally fall under the same public welfare system as other residents. You do not pay a separate social security contribution, like in some countries, but labor market contributions, known as AM bidrag, are withheld or paid on your income at a flat rate. However, you should pay particular attention to areas that are not automatically covered or may be less generous for the self-employed, such as unemployment benefits, insurance, and pension. If you want access to unemployment insurance, A-kasse, you must join an approved unemployment fund and comply with its rules, including the distinction between self-employed and employees. Pension savings are also largely your own responsibility. Many freelancers set up private pension schemes and use available tax-deductible contributions to manage both retirement planning and current tax liability. There is also the question of sickness, maternity, and holiday pay, where the protections are not as straightforward as for salaried employees. It is sensible to map your exposure and consider private insurance or savings to close any gaps. From an operational standpoint, the most successful freelancers in Denmark run their practice like a small firm. This means maintaining a clear separation between personal and business finances, using a dedicated business bank account, adopting basic accounting software, and tracking invoices, expenses, and mileage systematically. At least once a year, and ideally quarterly, reconcile your records and check that your expected income, tax prepayments, and VAT obligations are aligned. Doing this early allows you to adjust your preliminary tax assessment and avoid underpayment interest. It is also helpful to establish written contracts with clients specifying fees, payment terms, VAT treatment, and intellectual property rights. Clear contracts do not just protect you commercially, they can support your position if the tax authorities later question whether you are genuinely self-employed or effectively an employee. As we close, a few practical recommendations. First, clarify your status. Are you effectively an employee on flexible terms, or are you running a business? The answer determines much of your tax setup. Second, register correctly and on time. Obtain a CVR number if you meet the self-employment criteria, and register for VAT when your turnover requires it. Third, treat bookkeeping as a core part of your business, not an afterthought. Clean and timely records reduce your tax bill within the rules and limit the risk of penalties. Fourth, be proactive with skattestyros and tools. Update your preliminary assessment when your income changes and use the online calculators to estimate your tax. Finally, recognize that while much can be handled independently, the complexity of Danish tax rules, especially around business schemes, VAT on international services, and optimal pension contributions, justifies professional advice once your freelance activity reaches a meaningful scale. With the right structure and discipline, the Danish tax system for freelancers is manageable and can support sustainable, long-term independent work.